This is Richard Saul, and welcome back to the Revelation Podcast. The title to my podcast is Through the Bible, Book by Book, Verse by Verse. So you might be wondering, why is he starting with the last book of the Bible? Good question. There's a verse in Matthew 20:16 that says, "So the last will be first and the first will be last." Sounds good, doesn't it? But that's not what that verse is about. I have a couple of reasons why I have started with the last book. First is that I have had several people ask if I would start a study through the book of Revelation. I thought a podcast would be a great way to accomplish the study, plus it would be accessible at any time. Secondly, Revelation is one of my favorite books. Shortly after being saved in 1977, my Sunday school class studied through the book, and I have been hooked ever since. In this podcast, we will be looking at the background of the book of Revelation. The title to this incredible Bible book is The Revelation of Jesus Christ, which is derived from the very first verse in the book. It is important to understand what the word revelation means. The Greek word is apocalypsis, where we get our English word apocalypse. It is a combination of apao, which means remove, and kalypto, which means to veil. So it means to remove the veil or to reveal. What is revealed? Well, the glorified and the enthroned Christ and the future prophecy after the church age. The author is John, the beloved disciple. John calls himself the disciple whom Jesus loved, and we can also call ourselves that, can't we? John was the man named by Jesus as a son of thunder, the brother of James and the son of Zebedee. John was the only one of the 12 apostles alive at this time in 95 to 96 AD. Evidence of his writing this work is seen throughout the book in his particular style and use of language that is similar to what he used in the Gospel of John. Many of the early church leaders also testified that it was the Apostle John, who was in the Spirit, who Jesus told to write down those things that he heard and saw that we find today written in the book of Revelation. Most agree that the date of Revelation is 95 to 96 AD. It makes sense because it was in the later portion of the Emperor Domitian's reign. Domitian was not like Nero in the persecution of Christians. Nero would kill the Christians, where Domitian would exile them to remove their influence from the Roman Empire. John was exiled to the island of Patmos, which was a place used for holding political prisoners. I had the opportunity while serving as a Navy chaplain to live on a Greek island, Crete. Some parts of the island of Crete were similar to the terrain on Patmos, desert-like and rocky. I tried to visit Patmos while I was in that part of the world, but never got the opportunity. The island of Patmos is small, only 10 miles long and 6 miles wide. John is believed to have labored alongside the other prisoners in the rock quarries of the island. The original audience for Revelation were persecuted Christians living in the 7 cities in the Roman province of Asia. A number of towns and cities were connected by a great circular road of Asia. Each city mentioned in chapters 2 and 3 were about 30 to 50 miles apart from each other, all on the circular road. Revelation lists them in the sequence that a letter carrier would travel, arriving by ship from Patmos to Ephesus, clockwise from Ephesus, north to Smyrna and Pergama, east to Thyatira, south to Sardis, southeast to Philadelphia and Laodicea, west back to Ephesus. The original audience was for the 7 churches in Asia Minor, but it was also intended for all believers down through the ages. The book has 3 purposes. First, it was for the 7 churches of Asia who needed a word of encouragement, of instruction, and of warning. Secondly, for all believers of every generation. Jesus knows that every generation needs his words of encouragement, of instruction, and of warning that is contained in this incredible book. Thirdly, that this book would not only be an encouragement, but it should be an instruction for us to warn unbelievers of the great tribulation and the judgment to come, and also to understand the urgency of the warning. For throughout this book, Jesus states, "Behold, I come quickly." In the interpretation of the book, Revelation has 4 major interpretations. I'm not going to give the definitions of all these interpretations, but feel free to look them up. I'm going to focus on the one I believe fits the book the best. The 4 interpretations are the preterist interpretation, the historical interpretation, the spiritual interpretation, and the futurist interpretation. I believe that the futurist interpretation is the stronger of the 4 interpretations because it takes Revelation to be a book of prophecy when it claims to be a prophecy. And there is no question that the book claims to be a picture of the future. But most importantly, Revelation must be biblically interpreted. The Bible speaks for itself, and it speaks powerfully. This book is so full of symbols that we must look in other parts in Scripture to find out what symbols mean. So we must be willing to take the time to search the Scriptures in order to understand Revelation. In the next podcast, we will begin our verse-by-verse study of Revelation. I hope you will join me next week as we start Revelation chapter 1. May God richly bless you.